These statutes would systematically codify race-based slavery, making it hereditary, permanent, and inextricably linked to African descent. By 1700, less than 60 years after Punch's trial, slavery had become the undisputed economic engine of the colonial economy, a brutal system of exploitation and oppression that would endure for over 200 years, shaping the very identity and destiny of a nascent nation. The question John Punch asked, the question that cost him his freedom, would be answered with chains, with whips, with the systematic dehumanization of millions, and with centuries of unimaginable suffering. Thomas Gwynn, the young man whose striking resemblance to Kofi had ignited this entire tragic saga, grew up, inherited his father's prosperous plantation, and lived a long, seemingly fulfilling life. He married well, taking as his wife the daughter of another wealthy, influential planter, further solidifying his family's position in colonial society. He had children of his own, heirs who would proudly carry on the Gwynn name, children who would never know the devastating truth about their grandfather, about the African man whose blood, in a cruel twist of fate, ran through their very veins. Thomas became a respected member of the Colonial Assembly, a man of considerable influence and power, a revered pillar of Virginia society. He never knew the truth about his origins, or if he did, if some faint unsettling whisper of it ever reached him, he never spoke of it. The secret, like a venomous serpent, died with him, buried as deeply and as irrevocably as John Punch's unmarked grave. Robert, the overseer whose testimony had sealed Punch's fate, disappeared from the colonial record sometime around 1652. His ultimate fate remains shrouded in mystery. Some whispered that he drank himself to an early grave, haunted by the dangerous question Punch had asked, by the chilling knowledge of what he had done, of the role he had played in forging a new kind of bondage. Others speculated that he simply left Virginia, unable to live with the crushing weight of his conscience, unable to face the man he had helped to condemn. His disappearance, like so many other uncomfortable truths of the era, was simply absorbed into the vast, silent landscape of colonial life. Hugh Gwynn, Punch's master, continued to prosper. His plantation grew, his wealth increased exponentially, and he became, by all accounts, one of the most successful and respected planters in Virginia. He never spoke of John Punch, never mentioned the infamous trial, never acknowledged the pivotal, chilling role he had played in creating the legal precedent that would define American slavery. When he died in 1663, he was buried with full honors in a churchyard in Jamestown, his grave marked with an imposing stone that lauded his significant contributions to the burgeoning colony. Eleanor Gwynn lived until 1670. She spent her final years largely confined to the grand main house, rarely venturing outside, her health slowly declining, perhaps under the immense unspoken weight of the secrets she carried. She never spoke of Margaret Evans, never mentioned Kofi, never acknowledged the devastating truth that as a woman living within the confines of that house, she must have known or at least suspected. When she finally passed, she was buried beside her husband, and the secrets, like the dust of ages, died with her. William Evans, the powerful planter who had owned Kofi, continued to serve in the Colonial Assembly until his death in 1659. He remained a formidable, influential figure, a man who actively shaped the laws and policies of Virginia, a man whose word carried immense weight. He never spoke of Kofi, never mentioned the African servant who had worked in his house, never acknowledged the forbidden relationship between his wife and the man he had murdered. His reputation remained meticulously intact, his legacy as a respected powerful planter utterly secure. And the question itself, why does the young master look exactly like my brother, was buried deep within the colonial archives, a forgotten whisper in dusty court records, lost to the collective memory for centuries. It remained there, a silent, haunting testament to a truth too dangerous to be spoken, until diligent historians, poring over faded documents, painstakingly uncovered the court records and meticulously pieced together the harrowing story of the man who dared to ask it. In 1640, the Virginia court, in its chilling wisdom, sentenced John Punch to lifelong servitude, thereby creating the first legal precedent for race-based slavery in English America. Within 2 decades, the Virginia Assembly, building upon this insidious foundation, would pass a series of laws that systematically codified slavery, making it hereditary and permanent for all people of African descent. By the turn of the 18th century, slavery had become the undisputed bedrock of the colonial economy, a brutal system of exploitation and oppression that would endure for over 200 years, leaving an indelible, painful scar on the soul of a nation. The question John Punch asked in his desperate search for truth was never answered in his lifetime, but it echoed as a silent, persistent lament through the centuries. It was asked again and again by the millions of people who were enslaved, who were denied their fundamental freedom, who were treated as mere property rather than as human beings. It was asked by the courageous abolitionists who fought tirelessly to dismantle the monstrous institution of slavery, by the soldiers who shed their blood in the brutal crucible of the Civil War, by the civil rights activists who marched and struggled for equality. And in a profound sense, it is still being asked today. It is asked by historians who meticulously uncover the forgotten stories of people like John Punch, by descendants who bravely search for the truth about their ancestors, by a nation that is still grappling with the complex, painful legacy of slavery and the enduring question of what it truly means to be free. John Punch's story is not merely a historical anecdote. It is a powerful, haunting reminder that history is not solely about the powerful and the famous, but profoundly about the ordinary people whose lives were irrevocably shaped by the decisions of others, whose voices were brutally silenced, whose stories were deliberately buried. It is a chilling testament to the fact that the past is never truly past, that the questions we ask today are in essence the same fundamental questions that were asked centuries ago, and that the relentless search for truth and justice is a journey that for humanity never truly ends. This chilling mystery, unearthed from the dusty archives of colonial Virginia, reveals how a single audacious question can, in its profound simplicity, irrevocably alter the course of history. It shows us that the desperate search for truth can come at an unimaginable cost, and that the insidious legacy of injustice can, and often does, endure for centuries.